Hi guys, it's SimLicy here, so welcome to another part of my Renovating EA series, and today I am renovating this, which is the library in Willow Creek. I haven't been in Willow Creek in a long time to do a renovation, so I was really excited to do this one. And this has been a build that I have wanted to renovate for a very long time, but I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do with it necessarily. This is a library, and I did keep it as a library. You can run it as a store, or you can run it as a cafe too, which I think a cafe would be kind of fun, but I like it being a library because then the librarian's there. But if you want a store, then it functions as that because there is a cash register. But yeah, what I wasn't really sure about doing with this lot is if I was going to keep that very top piece, the third floor with the weird room that sticks out with the pointy roof on top. I'm not exactly sure how to describe it, but I'm sure you guys understand what I mean. I decided to get rid of it in the end because it does match a lot better with my other renovations with the more flat roof, and I feel like it turns out really cool. And I don't know, I just really like it, so hopefully you guys do like it too, but of course let me know what you guys think. So for this build I was looking on Pinterest at different architectural styles from New Orleans, and I think they were mostly in the Garden District if I got that right. I'm not exactly sure, I've never been to New Orleans, but from what I gathered from Pinterest that seemed to be the case anyways. And I think it looks pretty similar to a lot of the building styles that I saw from those images, and I am like absolutely in love with it. I've looked at a lot of different pictures for every renovation that I've done here in Willow Creek, especially these ones in this community lot district, and I just love them. There were so many like hanging plants, so you'll notice I put a lot of plants on this build because I saw a lot of pictures of these huge bushy hanging plants, and I thought the ones that came with cats and dogs worked perfectly. And here in the front I was trying to use these hanging baskets to cover up this weird circular room piece because for whatever reason, I think it's a new glitch, the floor trim wasn't actually connecting to the round room. So hopefully they're working on fixing that because I've never noticed that issue before, so I'm pretty sure it's a new glitch. And I noticed it on some other builds as well. It was like it just wouldn't snap there, and I don't know, I end up putting a sign there in the end and I get rid of those hanging baskets. I thought they looked pretty, but I don't end up keeping them in the end. So here along this long stretch of wall is where I hang these hanging baskets, and I sized them up and they looked so similar to ones that I saw on Pinterest, so I was really happy about that, and they look so lush and really pretty. I don't hang them all over the build, just here on this side and a little bit on the back and front. And then I switch over this part of the build to have some brick, just kind of as an accent piece, and I do keep the rest of it this yellow siding that it originally had. And I really liked this brick. I thought it complemented the yellow colors really well, and I was just really happy with the way that turned out. And back here I do end up putting some outdoor dining and a little seating area on this back porch. Nothing too special, just a couple of benches that came with cats and dogs. And something I really liked doing in this build was mixing these new doors that came with Get Famous with some that we have from base game, and then those ones that came with, I believe, Romantic Garden is the other windows I used. I could be wrong, but I thought that they all worked really nicely together. And I also really liked using the floorboards that came with Get Famous, those like rustic saloon wood floors. I only used them on the exterior porches, but I thought the yellow color also worked really well with this build, so I was really happy with the way that all came together. And I just love rustic floorboards on porches. I always use the ones that came with Spooky Day. I love those floors. I use them probably way too much on porches, but now I have another rustic floor to use, and I thought it worked really well for this build. And there for a moment I did think about adding a roof piece to the top, but there I just decided to put some of those vents and air conditioner units or whatever you call those on the roof instead. And this is one of the last builds that I have to do in this area of Willow Creek. By the way, I still have the museum left to do, so I'm not exactly sure if I should keep it as a museum. I'm leaning towards keeping all of these lots here in Willow Creek to their original ones. So we got the library, we got the gym, and the gym is also a yoga studio, by the way. I can link all of those other builds that I've done in this area too if you guys haven't seen them already. I've done that gym, and then I've also done the Blue Velvet Lounge, which is I think originally a nightclub, so maybe I did change it because I changed it to a lounge because I felt like it suited it more to be like a jazz lounge. Yeah, so I'm not exactly sure, but let me know what you guys think about the museum because I feel like museums are a little bit boring. So the other thing that I was thinking about turning it into was a restaurant, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to put a restaurant over by the Goss house because there's that one lot that has like a community garden behind it, and I was thinking that that would be nice to have like a really nice restaurant that maybe uses like their own garden to cook all of their food, I think that would be kind of cool. Like make it a really fancy, like upscale restaurant. So maybe I could do one that's a little bit less upscale, or just keep it as a museum and have like a nice wedding venue museum area. Let me know your guys' thoughts anyways. But here I am just adding some decorations to the porches. I don't end up keeping this barrel. I do end up using the one that came with Get Together, and I size it down slightly, and I put them just in random spots on the porch just to add a little bit of decoration. But I thought these ones were really pretty. I liked the blue and yellow flowers on them. And then the whole upstairs porch area has some chess tables on it, which I thought was really nice because the original lot had a porch wrapping around it as well, but 0 activities on it, so it was basically useless. And so I thought that it should have some sort of activity and decoration. So I think that turned out really nice. The original upstairs to this build also didn't have a whole lot going on. I noticed when I went to go take the screenshots that no Sims were actually going upstairs at all in the original build, but when I placed down my renovation, a lot of Sims were going upstairs, and I guess that's because there was just more activities and it made the space a little bit more usable. So I was just really happy with the way that turned out. But here I am finding a sign for the front of the build, so I did get rid of those hanging baskets, and I always size up these signs on the exterior. Well, maybe not always, but I do it a lot because I feel like you can just see them a little bit more. So it kind of clips into the pillar a little bit too much, but I think it still looks pretty anyways. And then I hang up a coffee shop sign there in the back, also sized up. And I thought about adding another one of these signs somewhere, but I decided that one was plenty. And then I also put some benches around the build as well. So I do a couple in the front and then a couple on the side just to put some like seating areas. And then I also put a couple of trash cans around too. I ended up putting them in the back by the flower beds because I felt like that made a little bit more sense. And then I use these trees that came with City Living. And I don't use these trees that often. I should probably use them more because they work perfectly, especially for community lot builds. And I really like them in this swatch because it comes in some crazy swatches, but this one that I used was this nice white swatch, and I felt like it just suited the build perfectly. I also ended up putting one in the front, but right here I am hanging up this flagpole. And I'm not exactly sure why. I thought it looked kind of cool anyways and added a little bit of decoration, and I feel like a library might have a flag. And then I also put that thing that came with City Living that has like a city map on it. Just thought it was kind of fun to add some of those decorations. But here I am adding another one of those trees in between these benches. And I just really like those. I think they're really cute and I should definitely use them more often. And then here in the front, I do have a little librarian cart as well as a sign. And then I also put some signs here in the back for the coffee shop because this is technically kind of the entryway to the coffee shop. You can get into it from the library. It kind of all flows together, but I don't know, I figured this was the actual entryway for the coffee shop anyway, so we got some signs out here, and I thought this one with the little coffee cups in this teal color was so cute. It's kind of like this, teal minty color, and I thought it was super adorable. Then I put another one next to it just to kind of advertise what they have for sale in there. But here I am clearing out the entire furniture and the entire floor plan as well. I was kind of thinking of leaving it pretty similar, but I decided to completely do my own floor plan, and I'm really happy that I did because I think it worked out really well. And it's a little bit more cramped and not as open as the original one. I still feel like it feels pretty open because I use a lot of archways to separate the rooms, but I feel like it just has so much more personality and character to it, and that's what I try to do with all of my renovations anyways. I just want to add lots of clutter and decorations that make them feel more unique and personalized to my taste anyways. So at this point I am just working out the floor plan. I knew essentially where I wanted everything to go. I knew I wanted to have the main part of the library downstairs, so a lot of the bookcases down there. I also wanted to have a place for the librarian to sit because the original build did have a librarian's desk, and so I knew I wanted to include one of those. That's where I also put the cash register because I felt like it kind of made sense for them to have some sort of cash register type machine for checking out books, and then that way you can run it as a bookstore if you would like, and then you could have a sim like run their own bookstore, and that would be kind of cool too. Or you could just visit one. That would be really nice. I don't think I've ever built a bookstore. Maybe I should include one in my save. That's probably a pretty good idea. But I knew I wanted to have the coffee shop downstairs as well, so here I'm just trying to figure out where the espresso bar can go, and I felt like it worked really nicely right there. And here I am just messing with this room. I mess with it quite a bit because the archways weren't very even on both sides. It wasn't very symmetrical anyways, so I do mess with the room slightly. I think I make it a little bit smaller is what I end up doing, but I'm really happy with the way it turns out. And this little room that I created here in the center is where the downstairs bathroom ends up going. So like I said, there is just a single bathroom downstairs and then 2 other ones upstairs. So there should be plenty, but here I am changing the size of this room just to make the whole build a little bit more even. I feel like with community lots, the symmetrical look just works a little bit better. I mean, it's not overly symmetrical, but it's a little bit more even is probably the best way I can think to describe it. So here I did think about separating these bathrooms into 2 separate stalls. I don't think it would have worked very well. I tried making it a little bit bigger here. I just messed with it quite a bit, but I don't know. I feel like leaving it as the single room just worked so much better for the space, and I feel like it just looks a little bit nicer that way anyways. And then for the second story, I knew I wanted to include an open balcony structure like the original build had. It's not as like big and grand as the original one, but I still think it looks really nice. I especially liked using these pillars on the bottom to create kind of a support structure. I just thought that worked out really well, and I feel like it's just nice and open, and I like being able to see the entryway from the upstairs anyways. And then here I am just sectioning off the different rooms for the upstairs. So like I mentioned, there's the kids area, there's the computer area, and then the 2 bathrooms, and then the open balcony area, and I just thought that's so pretty. But here I am just picking out the wallpapers for the entire build. I go with this yellow striped wallpaper that's base game. I thought it was so pretty here in this build, and I felt like the colors just worked perfectly for, I guess, the exterior colors that I was going for, and especially mixed with the brick. It's just so pretty. This build ends up having a lot of yellows, browns, and then a lot of green, and I just really liked that color combination. But here I am decorating the espresso bar area. I just put a few little decorations around. I mean, nothing too crazy, but I wanted there to be a few little clutter items, and then there's the espresso board in back, as well as those really nice shelves with the different little coffee pots and different little coffee related items on there. I don't use those shelves that often, but they worked perfectly in here, of course. And then I also got some fruit back there, as well as that really nice tray with the different little desserts on it, which is so cute. But here I am just going into the debug menu to pull out these coffee bags. I kind of thought that these could be for sale. Maybe it's their specialty coffee that they use. Maybe they roast it themselves. That's kind of a fun idea, but I wanted to have a few of those up there. And then other than that, I do put a few little decorations on the walls, and then I also do a couple of seating areas in here. It's kind of a small space, so I think I only end up getting 3 tables with 3 chairs at each of them, I believe. And I go with these tables and I pair them with some chairs that came with Jungle Adventure. I really liked the light wood tones. I felt like they worked really nicely with this build. Now, something you might want to keep in mind when you visit this library, you will have to hire a coffee barista yourself. It costs 100 simoleons. I wish that they would just show up automatically. That way your Sims didn't have to hire them themselves and spend their own money. You can, of course, reimburse your Sims, but I feel like that would be so nice that they would just show up automatically on community lots or something, but unfortunately they don't. And I also put that street music performer stand outside. You will also have to hire a Sim to play there as well, but you can do that and you can have a Sim play music, and then you can drink coffee and read books, and I feel like it's just such a nice atmosphere, and hopefully it'll be a fun place to take your Sims. But here I am just picking out the final decorations for the coffee shop. I put that sign over there, and then I put this rug here in the center, and then I also exchanged that painting for a clock instead. I felt like the painting just didn't really work that well for, I don't know, I just didn't really like it as much as the clock, so I put that there. And then over here I do put this shelf that I think came with Get to Work. I can't exactly see the symbol on the icon, but yeah, I put that over there. But here I am in the main library part of the build, and I'm just scooting these bookcases closer together because it was bothering me that there was a gap in between them. And then here I'm just hanging up some curtains. I go with very green curtains, so they may not be to everybody's taste, but I thought that they just worked really nicely with the yellow. And I think these are the same curtains that were in most of this build originally, but they were in a brown color, I think, instead of the green. So I don't know, I was just really happy with that. And then other than that, since this area is kind of small and cramped, I didn't want to like overly stuff it with furniture, but I did put a couple of stools next to the bookcases. Now your Sims will sit on there, but I thought that we could pretend that they were stepping stools, so you could, you know, if you're a child Sim or a shorter Sim, which we don't have height adjustments, that would be something I would like to see. But anyways, I thought that they would be like a stepping stool for your Sims to get books off the highest shelf. And then I just put a couple of chairs around, and I go with these ones. These were the same ones that were here originally, and I just put a couple next to each window with a table and a lamp, and so it is pretty simple. But here in the middle I put these display shelves. Now I think they are bookcases, these ones right here, but when you put books on them they actually snap into a display form, so they probably work better for a store, because not all of them that I place, these ones that I'm placing right now were fine, because in the debug menu they're already in their display form, if that makes any sense, where they have some on the bottom and then some on top. But when you pull books that are just their single books like these ones, they still snap to a display form, but the librarian actually puts them away. So when I went to go play test this build, she put all of them away, which is fine. So I just had to go through the debug menu and pull all of the ones out that were already in their display form. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys, but yeah, it wasn't that big of a deal. It was really easy to fix, but I thought I would mention it to you guys in case you're building your own library and you're noticing that your librarian is putting away books that you wanted to be on display or something like that. So yeah, not that big of a deal, but here I am decorating the downstairs bathroom, and it's very, very simple. All of the bathrooms in this build are pretty simple. I just put these hand towels and the soap. Now I end up moving the soap closer to the sink later on, because I realized when I go to decorate the upstairs bathrooms that it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to have the soap away from the sink. I don't know. I felt like that was didn't make a whole lot of sense anyway, so I do end up switching that up later on. But here I am decorating the entry part to the library, and this is where the librarian's desk is, and I just love the way this turned out. I think it's kind of like a nice grand entryway, and we got the library carts over here so the librarian can put all the books away, all of the ones that are returned or being held for checkout, those kinds of things. And then, like I mentioned, I do put the cash register here, so you can run it as a store. And then I also put this little vacuum thing. I always forget to use that item, but I thought this one was really cute with the little pancake on top. And then I put some like personal clutter items around, things that I thought the librarian would want to have by her desk. There's a clock, and there's, I don't know, some pencils and some business cards, and maybe they're library cards and not business cards, but those ones, they came with Dine Out, right? I'm pretty sure. And then I put some books over here, these stack of books, and I was thinking these were ones that the librarian still has to sort through, because I actually worked at an elementary school for a while, and I did some work in the library, and there would be like stacks and stacks of books that kids were returning, and you'd have to go through them, and they would kind of pile up on the side of the desk. And so that's what I was thinking over there. And then I also hung up this sign that came with City Living. Now these will actually tell you when there's different events going on in the city of San Myshuno. So it may not be that necessary to have here in the library, but I thought it was kind of fun rather than using the other bulletin boards that are just like decoration. These ones are more interactive, and then you can leave notes and stuff. I don't know, I thought that was kind of a fun idea, so I do put one down here and then one upstairs as well. And then here I'm just adding some books to these display shelves, but here I added only single books, so I did have to go through and replace all of them with the stacks of books, so you'll notice they're different in the screenshots. And I also put some of those clay molds, they're on the half walls around the desk as well. Now Sims were playing with those constantly, and I thought it was kind of funny because it looks kind of silly when they're like stretching and pulling them. So that's kind of a fun activity to have here. So the Sims will probably move them around and set them in weird spots throughout the build. But here I am adding a couple more clocks. I'm not exactly sure why I put so many clocks in this library, but I put quite a few. And so yeah, it's kind of a theme throughout this build. And then I also hung up some jazz art because I felt like it kind of matched the rest of this shopping area or community lot area anyways. And then here we are moving on to the upstairs. The first area that I decorate is this bathroom area, and I do a little seating area in between just because I wasn't really sure what I should put there, and I didn't want to block off this window because yeah, just had this really big beautiful window that was open to the outside view, and I thought it just looked really nice. But for the bathroom, I pretty much just copied over a lot of the same items from the downstairs, so it's pretty matchy-matchy. Like I said, the bathrooms weren't too special in this build, but here at this point I did realize that the soap didn't make sense to be by the hand towels in the trash can, so I move it over by the mirrors. And yeah, I feel like that just works so much better. And then other than that, I just put some towels and then a candle and kept it pretty simple, but I think it just looks really nice. And I really do like the seating area that I put in between the bathrooms. I don't end up keeping these curtains though. I felt like they covered up the window a little bit too much, and it kind of bothered me that they were lower than the same curtains that were right next to them when you have the walls in cutaway mode. So I ended up pulling up the same curtains that I put down in the coffee shop. These ones I felt just worked a little bit better and they didn't block the view so much. and then just a side table, 2 chairs, and then I also hang up some more jazz art on the walls in here as well. And yeah, I think it came together pretty nicely. And so here around this open area, I do add some more bookcases, a couple more chairs to sit on and read. Now these cases do clip quite a bit because I do end up overlapping them again. So you may have noticed there for a second I was going to put some of those overhead cabinets to kind of cover up the way they're clipping, but I don't know, I decided that it didn't really bother me that much, and it looked so much better to be kind of like have these grander bookcases, and I feel like they just worked so much better. I've seen the custom content ones that are like the single tile version of those bookcases, and I think I've also seen them in like different heights. Those are really cool. I wouldn't mind seeing EA do something like that. That would be a really cool like thing to add to those bookcases, because these ones I feel like they're like the most simple, easy to use bookcases in a lot of different builds. But oh well, I also like the ones that came with, I guess it's kids room stuff, I think is what it's called. Those bookcases I really like as well, because there's the 2 different versions of them, the thin one and then the wide one. Yeah, would like to see that in these bookcases as well. But here's going to be the computer area. Now I kind of clutter up this area quite a bit. I wanted it to look like Sims had been currently working at these desks, like they have homework or files or whatever they have. There's like tissues and just random little bits of clutter items around, some backpacks, and then a couple more bookcases in here, and then another display shelf. And I don't end up keeping these chairs. I felt like they just crowded up this area way too much. But the books that I use on this display shelf are the single books, so I do have to go through and replace those. So same with the downstairs one, they will be different in the screenshots. And then I also end up using that debug bulletin board that I mentioned downstairs, this one right here, because I thought it'd be a lot of fun. And then other than that, I think there's like a couple plants, and yeah, that's pretty much it for this room. But here I am decorating the little kids area. This is something I really wanted to include because the original library had one, and I feel like that is so realistic and so cute to have in a library. And yeah, I just love the way this room turns out. I mean, it's nothing too crazy. There's not a whole lot of activities, just kids furniture. And then I also put that building block table that came with Parenthood. I put that here in the center, but I noticed when I was playing this library and playtesting it that adult Sims were actually playing with that way more than the kid Sims. So I thought that was kind of funny. But I put a couple of these little kid bookshelves in here, and these teddy bear chairs are like my favorite chairs in the entire game, and I thought they were so cute in here. I also really liked this carpet that I used in here. I wanted it to look like a rug, but I thought the giraffe print was super adorable, and I felt like the colors worked perfectly. And then over here I do put another one of those little kid bookshelves because it has like the nice little kid decorations on it. And then other than that, I put a couple of posters up on the walls, some like reading related ones that are base game, and I thought those worked pretty nicely. But that is pretty much it for the build. I do change up some of the lighting. I realized that the lighting above the librarian's desk was kind of floating in midair, so you'll see me change that here in just a moment. And then we are on to the screenshot. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this renovation. I thought this one was so much fun to do, and hopefully you guys are looking forward to future ones. So thank you guys so much for watching, and please leave any comments or suggestions that you have, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye!